Hey, what's up peoples? Hardleg Joe here with the profile for my Drytron Toolbox deck, a more trollsy build of Yu-Gi-Oh's most powerful ritual archetype, which ignores broken tech cards like Ben 10 and Vanities in favor of sillier options like Honest and Chaos Max. As with all my decks, this isn't the best build available, but it's a solid core that should survive the ban list and provide a decent base to build upon for months to come. And, you know, if you just want to understand how the archetype works in general, what its strengths and weaknesses are, this video should suffice. So yeah, going over our deck list, we've got 3 Spanish Inquisition, 3 Cyber Dragon Willies, 3 Del Tacos, 1 Beta Max, 3 Gam Gam, 3 Zebras, 3 Alfs, 2 Gurren Lagann, 2 Big Zam, Maximum Chaos, the Ghost of Big Bird, Beth, 3 Cyber Dragon Rhoda, a Gravestone, a Factory, Drytron November the 3rd, 2 of Linkin Park's best album, a Gun, and the rest of the main deck is just faffing about. Our extra deck consists of AA Zeuses, 2 Wabaku on Wings, and 1 each of Fusion Kaiju, Mirror Match Insurance, an anime protagonist, his mecha, University of Phoenix, Creature Swap, a Stepping Stone, a Ball, Bunny Corn, and a bondage device too obscene to describe on YouTube. The side deck I'll go over a bit later. As for how to play this deck, it's actually pretty simple. The core of it is this ritual spell, which lets you summon any ritual monster from the hand or graveyard. Like all rituals, it requires that you tribute monsters for the summon, but instead of requiring equal levels, like most rituals do, you tribute machine monsters of equal or greater attack. So for instance, you want to summon Chaos Max? Well, it has 4,000 attack, so you need to tribute machine monsters with 4,000 or more attack. All the Drytron rituals are machines with 4,000 attack, so you can use any one of them, and all of the other Drytrons are machines with 2,000 attack, meaning any 2 of these will work. You can tribute these from your hand, of course, but it's much better to summon them first, because they all gain effects when they're summoned. Alpha searches a ritual monster, any ritual monster. Zeta searches any ritual spell, though we only play the 1 in this deck. Gamma summons another Drytron from the graveyard, which is an easy way to get 4,000 attack on board. Beta returns a banished Drytron to the graveyard, which is barely useful and why we only play 1. And Delta lets you draw a card as long as you can reveal a ritual spell or monster in your hand. Between these 5, you're pretty much living in Advantage City, population a hell of a lot of cards. The only downside is that, despite all these being level 1, none of them can be normal summoned or set. This is greatly offset by the fact that they can all be special summoned from the hand or graveyard by tributing a Drytron or a ritual monster from your field or hand. Which is a lot of ors, I know, so to make it simple, let's look at some examples. Let's say you have Alpha and Zeta. Summon Alpha by discarding Zeta. This will get you a ritual monster. Let's choose Chaos Max. Then you can summon Zeta out of the graveyard by discarding Max, which will search the ritual spell. Now you can summon Chaos Max out of the graveyard by tributing the 4,000 you have on board. Pretty neat, right? But that's not the best part. Let's say next turn you draw Delta. Discard the Delta to summon Alpha again and search another big ritual. Then summon Delta by tributing the Alpha on the field, so you can reveal that ritual and draw a free card. Now you can discard the ritual monster for Zeta, get another ritual spell, and summon another 4,000 behemoth. Basically, once you fill up your graveyard with Drytrons, any ritual monster or Drytron you draw will let you cycle through those monsters in the grave and generate you a shit ton of free advantage. That's part of why Shinobaron is so good in this. Not only does it have non-targeting, non-destruction removal, but at the end of the turn it bounces back to your hand, meaning you'll always have that discard fodder for next turn to get your plays started again. That's also why Cyber Angel Ben 10 is fucking broken in this archetype. If she's tributed, she searches a light fairy monster. She is a light fairy monster, and the search is not once per turn, meaning every time you discard her to summon a Drytron, she just replaces herself with another copy of herself. Oh, and then once you've gone through all 3, you can use the last one to search Vanity's Ruler, a light fairy that locks your opponent out of special summoning. It can't be special summoned, but you'll usually have 4 Drytrons on board at this point, which means you can use any 2 of them to tribute summon this thing, and still have 2 left for a ritual summon on top of that. It's pretty busted and likely to result in Ben 10 seeing the ban list before too long, which is why I didn't play her. But, you know, if you're playing this yourself, and it's legal to do so, then there's no reason not to play her while you still can. But yeah, that's the crux of this deck. Summon a million Drytrons, get all the advantage, and then do a million ritual summons. Speaking of which, I should mention the ritual spell has built-in recovery too. If it's in the grave, you can lower the attack of a ritual monster or a Drytron on the field by 1,000, and then add this back to your hand. This recovery effect is a hard once per turn, but that means that even if you only play 1 copy of this, you still get at least 2 ritual summons per turn, assuming you play your cards right. The only reason I'm playing 2 is just in case one of them gets banished or something. As for what we can actually summon, I already explained the bird. Beth pops a card on the field for every ritual in the grave with a different name, which means it can potentially destroy up to 4 cards at once. And since it's only got 1500 attack, 1 Drytron can be used for the entire tribute. Chaos Max, in addition to being very funny, can actually OTK really easily in this deck. Because all the Drytrons have 0 defense, and for some reason Konami printed this generic Link 2 that can creature swap 2 monsters. So you can give your opponent a Drytron and do 8,000 in double piercing damage. Quadratic Equation, meanwhile, can't be targeted by spell traps, and also, it can nuke your opponent's spell traps once per turn, meaning you can get rid of all of their imperms and they can't use imperm to stop it. Your biggest Chungus, meanwhile, can't be targeted by monster effects, can attack all special summoned monsters once each, and has a quick effect that lets you banish Drytrons from the grave to destroy cards your opponent controls. I'd say the art is appropriately intimidating. But yeah, these 5 rituals are your toolbox, and the game plan is to go second and summon the one that will ruin your opponent's day the most. Alternatively, if your opponent blocks your ability to ritual summon, you can always use your Drytrons to just make Links or Ixies, which form a sort of secondary toolbox, although you're mostly just making Zeus. The non-rituals are all level 1, meaning you can easily make this bird, who has low attack but can attack directly, which makes it really easy to summon Zeus in main phase 2 and just clear the entire field. The rest of your extra deck isn't really specific to Drytrons, it's mostly just generic shit, although we do have a couple monsters that specifically use level 1s as material. But yeah, this is going on for far too long, so I'm just gonna lightning round the rest of the main deck really quickly. Cyber Emergency searches any Drytron. Cyber Dragon Core searches Emergency, or if you don't already have it, Cyber Repair Plant. Repair Plant also summons all the Drytrons, but only if you have a core in the graveyard, so make sure you include 1 Almirage so that you can easily link this away. Core is what also allows us to make the Chimera Techs, if you didn't know. Foolish might as well be a Drytron search card, because they can all be summoned from the graveyard. Nova is a Drytron search card, it just summons a Drytron from the deck. The field spell searches Nova as well as this thing, if you already have Nova. This thing can lower a Drytron's attack by 1,000 to pop a monster, which can actually be really clutch sometimes. And Honest is just here to make big numbers even bigger, and occasionally to trick people by leaving out a defenseless Cyber Dragon Core. Don't play this if you're trying to be serious with this deck, it will brick your hand. However, if you want to be even more goofy with this deck, might I suggest Fantastic Stryborg. It's a big punch fan with surprising synergy and no one will expect it. See also Cyber Dragon Altanin if you like field nukes and you want to live dangerously. The rest of the side deck is actual side deck cards. There's a couple other ritual monsters you might want to consider for certain matchups. Demise can just nuke the entire board once per turn, and Ghost Bird Girl can shuffle spell traps back into the deck for those pesky pendulum matchups. If you want a nice middle ground between the super goofy Honest and the super serial Cyber Angel Ben 10, might I suggest go second cards like Lightning Storm. This is particularly good since you can often clear your entire field and just play out of the graveyard. Twin Twisters is essential in this day and age for fighting floodgates, they will ruin your day. And finally, Drytron have a counter trap, which is also searchable. Good if your opponent sees that you're OTKing and wants to try and make you go first. Anyway, that's it for this deck. Hopefully you enjoyed it, hopefully you learned how to play. Let me know down in the comments. Subscribe if you're not already, hit that like button if you like things, and join my Patreon so I can afford to hire an editor. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, stay frosty, Legos.